So how does mounting a prompter actually work? Well, we'll get into that right now. Well, mounting a camera to prompter and kind of camera compatibility. So how does that actually work? Well, every camera besides a DSLR is going to be mounted to the L bracket. The L bracket supports the cameras that are attached to prompter. So in this case, the L bracket is mounted onto the rear of prompter like so. It just goes on there, and then the camera goes on there as well, and then it's all tightened together. So why don't we do that? Why don't we actually attach Facecam Pro in this case, because that backplate is already on there. And I've got a handy dandy Facecam Pro as well. So the first thing you'll want to do when you have a Facecam Pro is actually take off the monitor mount for it that comes attached, unscrew it from the back like so, and then you can set this off to the side. Of course, you might want to keep this in case you want to use your Facecam Pro with your monitor again at some point. And then you'll want to attach the Facecam Pro to the L bracket or to the backplate. Now you'll need to also take off the sticker that's on it, that's on here, that says where to mount your camera. So you can just kind of peel that off. I don't know if you heard that, but it's just a really satisfying sound. And also the sticker will not break. Then you simply, on the L bracket, you can flip it over and then attach the screw to the bottom of Facecam Pro. And actually, I'm going to do it this way. Like that. There we go. And then the last bit here is attaching the L bracket actually to prompter. And so there's some guides there that you can see, and you can kind of simply slide it into place, make sure it's in there properly, and then take the screw and fasten it into place. Now you don't want to fasten it all the way. Let me actually move this over a little bit. You don't want to fasten it all the way because if you do, you won't be able to adjust the camera up and down because we're actually not done yet. What you want to do is you want to make sure that the camera is loose enough so that you can actually move it into position. So if I hold it up here sideways so you can get a better angle, I can actually move Facecam Pro into position like so. And once it's fully in and once it's fully slotted, now you want to go ahead and tighten the L bracket and tighten the camera in like so, and then tighten the Facecam Pro. And there we go. This setup is now complete. I've now got a fully set up prompter that I, at this point, just need to mount onto something like a tripod or maybe a master mount or a mic arm low profile, and then I can mount it onto my desk and then just connect on all the cables. So that's kind of what that looks like. You do want to keep in mind that when you're mounting this, that there is a bit of a distance between, you went from using basically a Facecam Pro this small to, something that's a little bit wider, but we'll cover that in a little bit as well. So that's Facecam Pro. And that's the Facecam Pro backplate. So how do the other backplates work? Well, that's also very simple. Let me take this off here. I'm going to take off Facecam Pro from prompter. The backplates on the prompter are actually also removable. You'll see there's two screws on the back here at the top. So let's say I am using a different webcam in this case, where I'm going to show the Facecam, but of course, prompter also works with many other webcams out there, such as from Logitech, Razer, many other manufacturers. Then you can use the Universal Shroud Backplate. So how does that work? So taking these two screws, I can simply lift out the backplate like so. Now I'll take the Universal Shroud Backplate, which I had set off to the side here, and I've got to unfurl that bit of cloth there. There we go. And then it actually has some guides that you can use at the bottom to just kind of set that in there, and then it falls into place. I don't get the cloth in the way. It can be a little bit fiddly. There we go. Now you'll want to move the cloth over to the other side, like so, and then take the screws and screw those in again. And this provides just a large opening that practically any webcam can look through. Now this also applies for other cameras such as all-in-ones, or maybe you're using an action camera such as a GoPro. Or maybe like a handheld, like a hand cam. Those will all work with the universal backplate. So now that I've got that attached here, I'm actually just going to leave prompter down. I'm going to move it over here. Now I'm going to take the Facecam. Facecam again. I'm going to remove the monitor mount. Again, you'll want to keep that. Don't throw it away, just in case you want to mount Facecam onto a monitor at some point. And then you'll want to mount it onto the L bracket. Now keep in mind at this point you've removed the sticker, but you'll want to make sure that it's connected to the to the correct side. We have seen some cases where, and that's why we include the sticker, where the part where the camera is mounted is actually attached to the prompter. You don't want to do that. It won't fit correctly, and you'll probably be able to tell. So just take your face cam or take your camera with the 1/4" threading and connect the screw like so. There we go. Now what you can do is you can also, again, tighten it a little bit, but you don't want to do it all the way because you'll want to actually slide it around a little bit to make sure that, or as much forward as possible to make sure that none of the frame is caught and that the camera is properly mounted. So once you've got your camera on the L bracket, you can then attach it to prompter by simply inserting it like so, making sure the screw goes in there. And then you might need to do some height adjustments here. You know, not every camera is the same, not every camera is the same height, and you'll want to make sure that the camera, again, is as far forward as possible, right? You want to make sure that it is not catching any of the frame of the universal shroud. And then at that point, just tighten it. And the last bit is actually, well, connecting the cable to your camera, or maybe it's connected, and then just moving the shroud over the camera. And that'll block all the light, right? So you want to make sure that it's completely wrapped around like that. And then all the light will be blocked, and there you go. Now you can mount prompter onto your mount. It might be a multi-mount, it might be a tripod, it might be a Elgato mic arm LP, which I'll show in a little bit as well. But you are ready to mount your prompter. Now, there's one more backplate that's included, and that is the ring backplate for DSLR cameras. So I'm going to take this off here. I'm also going to take off the Universal Shroud Backplate and replace it with a ring backplate. Now, both of these camera types, basically Webcams and Facecam Pro, have used the L bracket. When mounting a DSLR camera, you actually don't use the L bracket anymore. You mount it directly onto the camera. So go ahead and, at this point, grab the ring backplate, and you'll want to attach it just like we did with the Facecam Pro backplate or with the Universal Shroud backplate. You'll just want to attach it to prompter. So you can take it and just kind of guide it in, and then attach the screws again to tighten it like so. And these screws also have little, what do you call these? Little valleys in them. So if you're using a flathead screwdriver, you can use that as well. So there you go. And then you'll want to set your prompter off to the side for a second, because at this point, you'll want to actually grab your camera, and you'll want to grab specifically your lens, because what's important is your lens by default at this point won't connect to prompter. And the way it works is you'll actually hang prompter off of the front of the lens. But for that to work, you need some of the ring adapters, or rather the one that fits to your camera. So in this case, we are going to grab one of them. And often what'll happen is either on the lens itself or on the lens cap, the actual size of the threading here will be written on that. You can just go by that. On this lens, I don't believe, actually it is 67 millimeters. So I'm just going to go ahead and from the accessory kit that we have here with all of the lenses, lens adapters in it, I'm just going to grab, or the step-up rings we actually call them. I'm going to grab the 67 millimeter one, which seems to be this one right here. So I've got it here. And there's a bunch of others as well, again, for various different sizes. You want to make sure that you confirm that it actually comes with the size for the lens that you have. And then you can simply screw it on to the front of your lens and make sure it is nice and tight. There we go. So that is now connected. And at this point, what you would do is take your prompter and simply hang it off of the front of the camera. It kind of slides in there like so. And there you go. That's prompter when you connect it to a DSLR camera. So at this point, you can also do cool things like if you want to, you could actually shoot vertically if you mount your camera to the side like this. And the prompter will, as you can see here, it can kind of slide a little bit. Of course, it's hanging from your camera, right? So you'll want to make sure that, you know, if you lift prompter, it doesn't accidentally fall off. But yeah, you can just have your camera attached. You can have it sideways. You can move it. And one thing to consider is, and especially with a lens like this, you know, there is some weight added by prompter onto the front of your camera. What you can do is, you know, prompter has mount points at the bottom here. There's actually two, one on the frame and one right below the display. You can attach, using something like a flex arm kit, you can attach a basically a support mount to that. So that way, when you mount your camera, you also mount prompter, and it's not putting too much load on the front of the camera and on the front of the lens. Again, this is especially important if you have a camera that has like quite a large lens attached to it, or it's just the mount that you have might not be able to take all the weight, right? If you're using something like a tripod, you're going to be okay, but maybe if you're using a different mount type, it might not be able to support all that weight. But that is the way that the DSLR mounts. So those are all the different ways that you can mount a camera. You've got all these different backplates. You've got the Facecam Pro backplate, you've got the Ring backplate, and you've got the Universal Shroud. I did want to cover a couple other features. The last bit is we haven't talked about smartphones. Of course, Prompter is also compatible with smartphones. What you'll notice on the front of the L bracket is that there are actually different rails. So if we look at the L bracket here in a little bit more detail, you can see there are some front rails here. This is the main rail. This is the one that you're usually going to use. This is the front rail in case you need to get a camera even further up close to Prompter. And then you have the side rails here. And these side rails are important if you want to mount a smartphone. For example, this is an iPhone here. If I want to mount it, I of course need to make sure that the camera elements are in the middle of the L bracket, right? That it's mounted like this. And for that to happen, I'll need something like a smartphone mount, which I have one right here. And that'll be mounted off to the side to make sure that the phone can be held. So I'm actually going to set this up. What you can do is if you actually move the screw to the back here and then you turn to the left to loosen it, it'll actually come out. And then you can insert into either the left or the right side front rail, like so. Then attach the smartphone grip. Make sure that, and this one you can generally fasten already a little bit more. And then lastly, you can take your phone, and the one thing to make sure is also that the phone, if you're using a mobile phone, is that the lenses are mounted to the bottom of the L bracket, right? You'll want to make sure that they're at the bottom of the L bracket, not the top, like so, because otherwise it might actually catch the frame of the Universal Shroud. So make sure that the phone is mounted with the lenses at the bottom. And then you can just hold that in there like that. And there you go. Now your smartphone is mounted to the L bracket. You want to center it a little bit. There you go, just like that. And now with the Universal Shroud, I could attach it back onto Prompter. So quite simple to do. One thing to note is that the Prompter does not come with the smartphone grip, so that will be an additional purchase, but of course it is ready and you can attach any smartphone that you want, pretty much, as long as the grip can fit it.